This is the Celtfather, Mark Gunn, and today I'm going to share with you the itinerary for the Celtic Invasion of Brittany that I'm doing in about 2 weeks. So it's going to be an exciting trip, and I'm really looking forward to it. I got a lot of neat things that are going to be happening, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you a little bit of news. First off, I played at Johnnie MacCracken's Celtic Pub this past weekend, and it was a fantastic show. The show went from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. It felt to me like there was a decent, really good turnout, actually. People, and I don't know if that's because I was telling them that this might be one of the last, or it's just people who were like, hey, this is an earlier time slot. I can make this, and I can stay longer. Because I had a lot of people that not only came out, but they stayed longer. And that, to me, is sort of what I was wanting. You know, if you're not coming out for a couple hours, it's like, I mean, I appreciate any time that you can spend. But it's like, I really want you to have a good, long period of time to enjoy the music. And, you know, when you have to leave it if you end up leaving at 1 a.m., like a lot of the people do, they end up driving back and they're not home till like 3. So I just think that's crazy. So I think it was a good experience, and I'm going to try to set up more of these shows. So stay tuned for that. The Kickstarter for As Long As I'm Flying is $984 away from the third stretch goal, which will have me writing a new song live streamed, which should be fascinating. I think it'll be an interesting experience for all of us. I don't know how that will happen. We'll see if we actually hit that goal or not. But there's just a few days left. If you want a physical copy of this CD, then you really need to get on this Kickstarter as soon as possible, because I am not at present have any plans of selling the physical CD outside of what I'm doing, the pre-release there. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be available for sale. I might end up putting the digital eventually on iTunes and Amazon, but right now it will be exclusive to people who are patrons of my music. So if you want to do that, you just head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/MarkGunnMusic, and you can sign up there. That's great too. I am working on a new video strategy, and which means I'm using YouTube a lot more, and there's new content coming almost daily. I'm aiming for a new music video every week, and these will be just basically simple videos of what's happening in various situations. And I'm trying to keep it simple, trying to not tax my brain too much and make things overly complicated so that I can actually get it done. The newest video is called Wear the Brown with Pride, and basically what I did is I recorded that live in the studio, and that is the plan, is that will be the final version that will be on As Long As I'm Flying. Actually, I basically recorded both simultaneously so it could be look and sound perfect, and it did. I think it came out fun. There's a few moments with my eyes capture the video, and I just thought that it was a lot of fun. So go check it out. You can watch that on youtube.com/MarkGunn. My website migrations are coming to a close. I'm basically going to be deleting CelticMP3s.com. All those blog articles, I don't know how to transfer them to another website. I wish I could, but at this point in time, it's just going to go away. That will become basically a simple 5-page banner site for keeping everything else for the Celtic Music Podcast alive. So if you want to go grab one of those articles, do it as soon as possible, because it'll be gone in a couple days, if not sooner. My website will also be moving to a different server, so you expect a little bit of downtime at markgunn.com very soon. I did post a new blog this week on my website, and it's called, it was basically a review of everything that's been going on, I think, for the past month. Is that how I ultimately laid it out? It was basically a newsletter, an extended newsletter. And, there's links to, some of the videos that I'm doing, podcast episodes, the Kickstarter, etc. All of that. Plus, I added at the end, and wasn't done when I originally sent out the email, but I added the Hobbit reviews. Last year I asked you to review Don't Go Drinking with Hobbits, and you're still welcome to do that, because of an infographic that I had seen, which was talking about basically the more likes you get, the more you get featured by Amazon and whatnot. So I listed all the stats, and it's still a little bit early to tell if this was a success. On the one hand, it looks like it was a success, at least for Don't Go Drinking with Hobbits, but I did it for 2 different CDs. The other one was for the Best of the Irish and Celtic Music podcast, and that one was not nearly as successful, so I don't know what the reasoning is for that. I also have moved, a lot of my store is moving to Bandcamp. I have a Bandcamp page, markgunn.bandcamp.com. I'll have a celticmusic.org address soon, so stay tuned for that. But yes, you will be able to buy more music over there directly from me. You can get the Kilted for Her Pleasure shirts there, and soon I'm going to put up the latest Irish and Celtic Music podcast shirt, which reads Reel, R-E-E-L, Celtic Music. So stick around, stay tuned for that. And finally, I want to let you know that if you haven't noticed, I rebranded this podcast once again, Celtfather Music and Travel. I love traveling, and it seemed appropriate. So I'm attempting to add a little bit more of a travel element, which will include things like what you are just about to hear, which is the Brittany, Celtic Invasion of Brittany. Now, I should point out that every year I do a Celtic Invasion Vacation, and usually it's at about the first week of June. I'm probably going to move to like the second week, mostly because of children aspect. It's tough finding a babysitter sitting or summer camps the first week of June. So I figured we're going to aim for the second week from here on out, which for better or worse. But we've done this Celtic Invasion for many years. I started in 2009. I don't know. So whatever that is, I've done 8 or 9 of these invasions, plus the 2 Broceliande and Barge tours of Ireland. They've all been fantastic. Each one gets better and better. I'm trying to fine tune it even more for next year. I'm planning on the Celtic Invasion of the Isle of Skye, but with a caveat. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But this trip is to Brittany in France. Now, Brittany is one of the 7 Celtic nations, as they say, which is where the Celts resided for when they were traveling up from what is the Middle East. They traveled all the way into Italy and over, and some of them went down to Galicia and Spain, and some of them stopped over into Brittany before crossing the Channel over to Ireland and all the way up to Scotland, the Isle of Man, Cornwall. So this is a very important part of the culture. Obviously, it's fused a lot more with the French aspect as well. But I've never been, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. And I find these trips always fascinating because most of the details, a lot of the people who sign up for them, you have to pretty much go on faith that I'm going to put together another fantastic trip. I hate saying that. It seems like a bad advertising slogan, but the simple fact is that trying to organize these trips is difficult, because one of the reasons is we ended up staying in one location. We don't travel all over. This year we're staying in Carnac, and forgive me for my French if I say anything wrong. It's been a long time since I had French, and I'm hoping I'm nailing some of this. But we're staying for a week, 7 nights in Carnac, Brittany, in France. And this is up in the northwest corner of France. Carnac, I picked this location because of the Carnac stones, and basically they're if you're from standing stones are nothing new to Celtic culture, but here in Carnac they have the most ever erected. There are about 3,000 of them, in fact, and it extends for a long period, location-wise, of this area. So it sounds just absolutely incredible to see, and we have a tour scheduled on Sunday to go actually experience them and to catch all that. But I'll get to that in a moment. But that's the reason I picked this location. But because of that, I have to basically pick the housing. And once I have the housing, then I can decide where we're going to go. And the reason I it's kind of up in the air a lot of times is because I don't want us to travel too far too often. So last year at Cornwall, the biggest complaint that I had was that we drove from London all the way to Cornwall, and I forget how long a drive, 3 or 4 hours or something on that line. It was a long drive, a long day to and from. Plus, I had 2 trips across the peninsula, which was another 2 hours each way. So it was too much traveling that way. That's the reason everything I tried to keep it, simplify it as much as possible. We technically meet in Rennes, up in Brittany. However, most of the group is actually going to meet in Paris, where I'm going to fly into. We're going to catch a train up to Rennes, where the trip officially starts. And that's on Saturday. We're going to visit the Musée de Bretagne, which is a museum covering the history of Brittany. And we'll explore the museum for a couple of hours before driving to Carnac. Have some dinner. I'm going to play some music. Typically, the first night I do a pasta dinner in Carnac. I think my mom and my stepdad Tiziano will be meeting us there, hopefully with groceries. So we're all ready to go for the day, ready to have some get stuff going, and I can focus on playing some music and getting to bed at a decent hour because we'll all be a bit tired. But Rennes is about an hour drive from Carnac, so again, not too bad. Sunday, that's when we're going to actually get up early, head over, walk into Carnac, the town, which is not far away. We're basically staying on the edge of town, so it looks like it's like a 20-minute walk. Depending on how people are doing, I might drive us in there, but there's a farmer's market in Carnac, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. I love going to farmers markets and fresh open air markets, definitely in Italy, but every time we go to any place, I'm looking for a farmer's market. It's just one of my highlights. And we're going to get some food in the market and enjoy a nice relaxing time in Carnac, maybe seeing a few things. At 2 p.m. we're going to head on to a tour of the Carnac stones with Visite Bretagne, and that will take up the rest of the afternoon. So that's where we get a nice glimpse at the history and legends of, hopefully we'll be getting the history and legends of Brittany in general. But most of that will start on Monday. Now, normally I only do one official tour with a tour guide, but because this is France and I don't speak French, or I turned all my French into Italian many years ago, and I'm not sure how well it'll translate these days. Because of that, I've decided that I'm going to have 2 days of official tours. And this one be a 3-hour tour of the Gulf of Morbihan, or with Auray in the morning, a lunch break, and then a tour of the medieval town in the area of Vannes in the afternoon. Now, those are I don't know too much of the history of those. That's one of the reasons. To me, it's going to be a learning experience. I'm excited to hear about it, and I'm hoping he'll touch on a lot of the history of Brittany in general. Because on Tuesday, that's one of the things that has gotten me excited when I saw this was that we're going to go to Paimpont Forest, which is the home of the Arthurian Broceliande. Yes, King Arthur. It has a reputation of a medieval imagination as a place of magic and mystery. It's a number of settings for Arthurian legends, including Chrétien de Troyes Yvain, the Knight of the Lion, and locals claim the tree in which the Lady of the Lake supposedly imprisoned Merlin can still be seen today. Other recent legendary places said to lie in the forest are Val Sans Retour, the tomb of Merlin, and the Fountain of Youth, and as well as the castle of the Lady of the Lake. So that's going to be our Tuesday excursion. Now, again, details on many of these trips vary a lot. I have mentioned that already a couple times in this. And so the last few days get a little bit, I'm not going to go into much detail because on Friday, I don't know what's going to happen. I'll be honest. My plan right now is to have Wednesday, we're going to hug the coast, probably head towards Lorient, but we might actually do a boat ride out to one of the islands, and just take a relaxing day. I like to do, different. Jim, he is one of the people who originally said, what I really like about your trips is that you take different types of travel. Mostly I drive, but we have, we hop a train, we catch a boat. So I wanted to do something. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have a boat ride out to one of the islands. I haven't seen anything that was nothing's caught my eye yet as to what island this will be, so I haven't picked out those details yet. But we might also hug the coast and drive along towards Lorient. There's an Irish pub I saw on the way to Lorient, and Lorient, by the way, is where one of the largest Celtic festivals in the world is located, the Interceltic Festival, which is it's an international Celtic festival, and of course based in Brittany. I'm trying to set up some times to meet with local musicians, but I've had a lot of trouble contacting them. I have talked to Dom Duff, who was one of the earliest people that Celtic musicians that I put on the Irish and Celtic Music podcast, and I'm hoping I'll be able to meet with him at some point and do an interview. Again, my hope is to compile a bunch of interviews that I will be releasing on this podcast in the days and weeks and months to come. I'm not going to do a daily podcast or a daily video while I'm in Lorient or in Brittany. Instead I'm going to try to filter it out through the year, see how that works out. Knock on wood. So that's the plan for up until Wednesday. Now Thursday is I did get a approval from most of the people on the trip that we're going to have one long trip, and I'm still debating though whether we're going to go to Saint Malo or Mont Saint Michel. Now Mont Saint Michel is in Normandy. Saint Malo is in Brittany. They are both on the north coast. They're a good 2-hour drive from our housing. So we're going to have a long day, and usually it's kind of nice to have a long day driving in the car. We'll probably stop and see stuff on the road, find some little cafes as we go. Saint Malo is a walled town, and Mont Saint Michel I haven't actually looked at all the history of it, but it is a famous location. I think it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's going to be a really cool excursion, I think. I was glad to hear that everyone was on board with that. Saint Malo also was, I think, a haven for the privateers in France back in, was it the 1700s, maybe 1800s as well, when the piracy was really getting its boot, getting popular. This was the privateers in France were basically funded by the government to, loot English ships. They were doing that back and forth. Speaking of which, there's a great pirate history podcast. I'll try to put a link to that in the show notes, which I've been enjoying. And so I got a little bit of a taste of hearing about it. I don't remember if they mentioned Saint Malo right now, but I do know they were mentioning places in France like that. So I'm looking forward to exploring that. But I'm not sure if we're going to go to one or the other, or both, if we'll end up doing that. I don't think we'll have time to really do both. So we'll probably hit one or the other, but we'll figure out that. In the meantime, on Friday, of course, is going to be our last day. And so usually we find things that were really cool that we would like to see, explore more of, or learn more about, or maybe I learn something on the trip. I find a lot of times I talk to the tour guide at the beginning of the trip and say, what should we see? And they say, oh, you got to see this. And so we'll try to do that. Who knows, we might even end up doing another tour of some sort. I don't know. We shall see. In any case, after that, we head back to Rennes, where the trip ends. I'll be driving back with my mom and stepdad, and we're going to be heading back to Paris, where I will fly out of, and everyone else I'll actually meet there. They're going to take the train back, but I want to spend a little bit of time with my mother. So that's basically the trip for Brittany, and it's going to be an exciting one. I'm looking forward to sharing a lot more, again, podcasts and news. I'm going to try to compile stuff and see if I can find an easy way. The big thing is organizing management. But this got me thinking recently. I'm trying to think about the idea of, okay, so for the past few years, now I've already started planning that the next trip, Invasion, is going to be to the Isle of Skye in Scotland. But the problem is that there are so many places that I would love to go and share and explore. One of which, for instance, is I have this idea of doing a Celtic Invasion of Venice for a while. And Venice, if you're not obviously familiar with Venice, but my mom lives in Vicenza, not too far from Venice. So it's basically, an hour. I back in high school and a little bit in college, I made lots of trips to Venice, and I love the city. And I would love to spend some time there, spend a few days. And I was trying to think of an idea of either doing a retreat there, but I wasn't quite sure what kind of retreat. Though it did hit me. I was driving to Johnnie MacCracken this weekend, and one of the thoughts that struck me was doing trying to organize an Irish session, a group of musicians to come play in an Irish session in Venice. And so the idea would be maybe a bunch of musicians who are not necessarily, professionals, but who want to learn to play Irish music. Is we all gather together and we spend a few days just playing music in our place, and then maybe finding a pub where we can go out and have an Irish session, and it wouldn't have to be hardcore, because again, I'm not a session musician in general. I mostly am a singer, but I think it'd be really interesting. That's one idea that I thought of for a retreat. But the idea would be to basically spend some time, a few days in there, and I was trying to think if there's a way to do that, or to combine that with my other Celtic invasions that I do. So maybe spend the first, 6 days in the Isle of Skye, and then setting up a second trip, which would take us to Venice and having a few days there. I don't know. I would love your thoughts, though, if you would like to go explore Venice, and not just Venice, actually, because I also want to make it at least one day trip, which would take us out to the home of Grappa, basically to Grappa, I believe is the name of the town where it is. But Grappa is Italian whiskey, and doing Grappa tastings in Venice, or in Italy, which would be awesome, I think. I don't know. So these are some of the ideas that I'm tossing in my head. I would love your feedback. If you would like to join me on a pretty laid-back, even more laid-back trip to Italy, Venice in particular, then let me know. Or another thought that I've had is trying another trip back to Dingle, Ireland, which is another place that is dear to my heart, where they actually have Irish sessions going. Whatever the case, I'd love your thoughts and feedback, and you can send it to markgunn@gmail.com. And if you enjoy this podcast, then visit Celtfather.com, subscribe to it, and share the love, spread it around. And also, don't forget to get my new album, As Long as I'm Flying, while it is available. Thanks so much for listening. I will talk to you later. Sláinte.